All right, Kate, thanks so much for taking the time to do this. My first question that I have for you is tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you started in the disability community.
Sure, great to be here. Thank you for having me. My name is Cait Russell. I currently work as the Chief Operating Officer at Multiple. We are a startup accelerator and support ecosystem for autism related technology. I came to the disability community many years ago, a little bit by happenstance, was really drawn to the inequities that I saw, the statistics on particularly unemployment in the disability community and in the autism community really struck me. And I was really driven by this passion to want to use my ability in the business sector to impact social good. So I've done that in a few ways through research, through a doctorate in occupational therapy, where I deepened my knowledge in how we can create these system-wide changes. Through a nonprofit called Neurodiversity Employment Network, where I was the executive director, founding executive director there for the past 3 years, and now in my role at Multiple. So I feel really lucky to have gotten to see many of the different parts of this social impact disability space, particularly as it relates to innovation in the workplace.
Mm-hmm. So what do you guys do at Multiple?
Yes, we have sort of a three-part mission in programming. The main part of what we do is a startup accelerator for autism-related technologies. So any entrepreneurs who are building technology that benefits the autism community can apply to be part of our accelerator. I liken it to a 12-week boot camp in which we help you with your sales, your marketing, your strategy to help you shore up your business. The end goal of this accelerator is to get your business to a point where you are investment ready so you can take on investment and really scale your impact. So the idea with the accelerator is we help these companies grow so that they can help more people on the back end. Second part of what we do is just bring awareness to technology that is out there that can be useful for the autism community. So we host events and showcases where we show off the different innovation that's happening in the autism space. Third part of this is centralizing knowledge. So we have a database where we track over 600 products around autism technology, and really want to open up that knowledge to people and build that base so it's not so hidden. We can, bring that all together. And really, that's I think the big part of it is how can we create a community around autism and technology so that it makes it easier for entrepreneurs to succeed and for people who can benefit from the products to get access to them.
Mm-hmm. Now, what is autism technology?
Yes, great question. So we really have a broad definition. In our definition, it's anything, any type of technology that can benefit the autism community. So for some examples, right? We're working with a company in our cohort now who has designed glasses that can peripherally dim to enhance focus. Another wearable headset that can adapt to your sensory preferences and help you filter out things that make the sensory environment more accessible. On the other side, you might have things like a project management platform that is built for neurodivergent brains, right? Typical project management might just not work well for an autistic person. Or, from other sides, we see outside of the workforce all sorts of innovations in wearables, in education, in health that can help support somebody across their lifespan.
Mm-hmm. So how do you go about like making sure that these types of technology are, actually funded and available to people? Because you're in Philadelphia, right?
I am in Philadelphia. Yes, our team is distributed across the country. So we started out of San Francisco, sort of in that innovation hub. We have team members in Denver and here in Philadelphia. So how we go about making sure that the technology is available, really from our perspective, is from that perspective of awareness, one, in publicly available events where we share about what we're seeing, but two, in being really strategic in partnerships, right? We want to build a community where we have schools in our network, we have families in our network, we have individuals in our network, and really being that central place you can come. So a lot of it right now has been that relationship aspect of it, where if we see a really cool piece of technology that we think a school could benefit for, or someone in our network could benefit from, we can share that out. But also taking that global approach and consistently building partnerships, sharing, putting these events out there, putting social media posts out there, really to just drive awareness.
Mm-hmm. What sorts of partnerships do you guys partner with in terms of getting autism technology out there? Do you guys partner with big companies like Apple, Microsoft, that kind of thing?
Sure. We have many different types of partnerships, and they all play a different role in how we operate, right? So we don't directly partner with corporations in terms of integrating into their technology. Many of our founders in our programs do. But someone like Microsoft, we recently had their head of neurodiversity and accessible hiring practices come share with our cohort that's building around workforce, right? To understand what does an accessible workplace look like at Microsoft and how might some of these earlier stage technology products fit in or contribute to that, right? Or from a really practical side, we partner with disability and neurodiversity focused venture capital firms who are there to provide the funding that allows the founders to scale their products and reach more people. We also have partnerships with different nonprofits and universities in the area where we share regularly what we're seeing.
Mm-hmm. What have these business leaders that you've talked to said about autism technology?
That's a really great question. I think there's a growing understanding of the benefits of neurodiversity in the workplace, right? That this different way of thinking is something that's really beneficial to organizations. But I think the problem for many, right, is that creating processes and systems that support neurodivergent people in the workplace does take an overhaul of how you really do everything, right? From the very beginning in advertising and recruiting through onboarding and management and promotion, all the way through an employee life cycle, right? It's a lot of change. So we're really seeing this as a change management and a business transformation conversation. One thing that we're hearing about technology in particular is that it does have that ability to make some of that change perhaps a little bit easier or a little bit more scalable, right? So something that previously had to be done on a one-to-one basis, really human intensive, what parts of that can we automate to make it a little bit easier on the organization to become neuro inclusive? We also have, tools that can just be available to employees. Maybe they're already within an organization, but they're struggling and looking for tools that can help them, right? I think that's the other side of it is business leaders are looking to connect their people to tools that can make them successful. And some of those tools are technology based, especially the ones that we are working with.
Mm-hmm. How are you guys planning to go on a global scale? Because you initially touched on that that you guys wanted to go on a global scale in terms of getting um autism technology like on a really global scale, because I think expanding it globally I think would help, especially other countries that are underdeveloped, have these technologies, available to their people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you're thinking is a key part of how we think, right? Technology in many ways can provide access to resources and tools that might not have been available otherwise, whether that's in screening, whether that's in delivering education, whether that's in delivering different therapies, right? Or technology can play a role in reaching parts of the world that maybe don't have the same access to providers that we do here in the US. Our companies right now within our cohorts are global. So we do have a global cohort at this point, and there's innovation happening across the world. But I think we're always trying to expand that. And I think the difficulty with that, particularly in the disability and autism community, as you've alluded to, is disability and autism, the conversations around that look very different in each different country and where they are in that path of understanding and acceptance and approach. So from our perspective, it's about learning right now, learning what's going on in other countries as it relates to autism and innovation, learning about the different cultures that are happening, and seeing how multiple might be able to fit into those conversations and complement the work that's already going on around the world.
Hmm. How are you making sure to include, other parts of the world in those kinds of conversations? Are you guys planning to do any summits globally, any sort of conferences globally?
Sure. So we are looking at being a part of a conference that's happening on the other side of the world, and really we see these all the time, right? Recently, the World Economic Forum hosted a conversation around autism and neurodiversity in Europe, but they had a virtual option where you're able to join. I think this digitalized world is making things a lot more accessible to be able to join in different conversations. But we're always on the lookout for different conferences we can be a part of. It's actually a big priority for us this year is identifying where the conversations are happening and how we can be a part of that. In January of this year, we attended the CES show in Las Vegas. So while that was US, it really has a global audience and it's all about technology and consumer technology. So I actually had the opportunity to be a part of a panel there specifically talking about how technology is transforming the world for neurodivergence and had the opportunity to connect with people from across the world who were attending there. And now it's a talk that's available online for all to see. So again, things that can be spread and shared.
If I could go back to excessive autism technology nationally, what can be done to sort of have autism technology available to underserved communities?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's many ways we can start tackling this problem. I think what I've seen from my perspective, even in tools that are, free and available, it's often difficult to know about them. So I think we need more intentional outreach to communities who might not have the same exposure to the cutting edge technology that is coming out from an awareness point of view, and to be sure that people get access to it. From the product development side of things, I think it's incredibly important when founders are conceptualizing and building these products to keep in mind some of the differences, disparities in access, and potential different needs, right? Maybe somebody needs the app or the technology to work in another language. Perhaps we need to look at how we're communicating information, especially in the autism community, right? If we're using videos, pictures, text, what's the best way to communicate information? So from that perspective, I think that's something that needs to just really be baked into the product so that when we get to the end where we're really looking at those distribution channels, we can make sure it gets there. From my perspective, I think foundations, government, schools play a really large part in this, right? As people who are close to the communities, in my ideal world, we have a really sophisticated network and system in which we can communicate information and really get it out to people who are most impacted. So in my brain and in what we're trying to build at Multiple, right, it's about forming all of those connections so that we can have a central source of information that then ends up being far reaching through the partnerships we have formed.
hmm Um, what has research shown about the benefits of autism technology? I don't know if you've leaned into that or researched that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this question is broad in scope, right? I think generally my answer is that the research has shown that technology does have a role in supporting autistic people across the lifespan, right? And can be a really positive force. When you get down to specific areas of innovation, there's some really interesting research. Particularly, there's a really strong evidence base around virtual reality and teaching skills through virtual reality in the autism community. When we look at apps that look at parent involvement with young children, there's some strong evidence around parent mediated intervention. But really, there's countless ways that technology can have a positive benefit in the autism community. In particularly the early stage startup space that we work in, I think this is an area where we could use more investment, right? Oftentimes, high quality studies are not accessible to people who are building at the earliest of stages unless they're coming out of a university program where the product has been developed within a university. So, in terms of how we can get more information about the research and the impact of autism and technology, to me, it's really crucial that we find ways to partner with universities and other research institutions on some of these cutting edge new ideas that perhaps we don't have the best evidence on or showing some early promise, right? But need that really rigorous clinical validation. I think that's a great next step for the autism innovation ecosystem to take.
hmm To wrap this up, what can autism technology, what can be done to sort of improve and sort of fine tune autism technology so it better um helps autistic people because technology often changes and it fine tunes, right? So how do you think it might do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think starting at the very base, right? When we're coming up with ideas for technology or building technology, it has to be built by the people closest to the issues and to the problems, right? So ensuring that you have multi varied perspectives from the autistic community involved from the very beginnings of a product or a technology state, I think is incredibly important. That feedback, if it's even if it is an autistic founder building it, right? That feedback from the community, because every person experiences the world differently. As much as we can incorporate that from the very beginning, I think that will help technology refine and be better, right? The worst thing we can do is spend resources and time and money on products that don't really solve a core problem, or they're not meeting the community's needs, right? So that sort of co-creation I think is incredibly important. And that's something that should continue throughout a product's life cycle, as you're alluding to, right? It's over time we keep refining, and that lived experience and that input to me is central to creating the best technology we can. The other thing that I think we need to continue to do is invest in this, right? It's still a space that's largely overlooked by technology, or that maybe society at large, right? There's not as much of an understanding about why we should be investing in these accessible technologies. So I think the more we invest, again, money, time, and resources into this space, the better product we will get on the tail end. From a really practical perspective, though, if you're a consumer in this space, if you're an advocate in this space, there are so many amazing startup teams who want your feedback and who want you to pilot their product and to tell them what you think about it so they can continue to improve it. So I think finding those products, finding those teams, engaging with communities like Multiple, so that you can give that feedback and you can partner with startups as they're building at the earliest stages, is one of the best ways we can ensure that good technology gets made and then it just continues to get better over time.
Mm-hmm. All right.